This is a ghost story. When I was a kid, I had a stepbrother named Todd, and we used to go to this town called Redlands in the Inland Empire near Los Angeles. And we would go there for the summers because my aunt lived there. And we'd live in this really big house. There used to be lots of orange groves around Redlands. It was all orange groves. And there was all these old Victorian houses. And then one time, my stepbrother Todd made friends with a family in one of these big Victorian houses. And he told me about this house when he went to spend the night there. So, the friend that he had there, his friend's name was Tiffer. And Tiffer was this very garrulous, talkative, kind of rambunctious guy. He's probably 15 at the time. Todd was pretty rambunctious too, and so Todd told me about this ghost that was at Tiffer's house. And this is the story he told me. So, at Tiffer's house, when I went to spend the night there, he told me about this girl that died in the 1930s. The original owners of the house had this girl. Her name was Penelope. And Penelope, when she was about 8 years old, died, and her ghost still haunted the house. Now, this house was a really big Victorian house. If you've ever seen the Addams Family, it was kind of like that, with these turrets that would kind of had almost like a castle on the side. These turrets and these stairways that would come out of the side, and these shingles and these very fancy painted adornments and roofs. So at this beautiful Victorian house, there was a big wide porch. In front of the porch there was a big lawn, and then there used to be orange trees all over the place. So Penelope's ghost was there because when she was 8 years old, they decided to throw a birthday party for her. And at this birthday party, they thought it would be really cool to have the punch have dry ice in it. So there's all these 8-year-old little girls running around having fun, and the sun was shining because it was California, and the orange trees were just bursting with color, and the birds were singing. It was a happy day. And Penelope's young parents had that dry ice in the punch, and it was smoke coming out of it, and the girls would laugh. And then, on that day, when Penelope went to go get a drink, somehow a little chip of the dry ice must have come off in the punch. And you know how when you touch dry ice, it kind of sticks to you. So a little chip had come off in the punch, and when Penelope went to drink her punch, it got caught in her throat. It was caught in her throat, and she couldn't get it out. She started coughing. I got me. This poor little girl was choking and choking. And the dry ice wouldn't come out, and her parents were panicking. They came running up, and all the little girls started screaming, ah, ah, ah. They were screeching, and Penelope was still going, ah, 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 ah. And it got caught in her throat, and she died on her birthday. And ever since then, Penelope's ghost has haunted the house. Now, Penelope's parents were really sad. They were heartbroken. They didn't change anything in her room. In fact, they boarded it up. They never went in again. Now, decades and decades later, Tiffer's family bought the house, and I was sleeping over at their house. And Tiffer was telling me this story. And he said that Penelope's room was right next door to his. And I had noticed that that door was really dusty. It was boarded up and it wasn't open. And Tiffer said, yeah, every family that's ever owned the house has never opened the room. It's just as it was when Penelope died at 8 years old, with lace curtains and a white quilt and dolls in the corner, except the lights have never gone on. fun. And every family that's ever lived there has talked about how the ghost of Penelope can be heard at night. Sometimes they'll hear it. They can hear her choking again on the dry ice. And they'll hear sobbing, the sobbing of the parents in the background. So Tiffer told me this story. And then he said sometimes you'll hear knocking. And it's Penelope banging her head against the door and against the walls. Because she's so sad and her ghost has not been set free. Well, I went to sleep that night and it was scary. But I was like, okay, this is going to be okay. But I just fell asleep, and in the middle of the night, I heard this very faint sound. And I woke up, and I thought, no, that couldn't be. So I got up, and I went to the bathroom, and I was sitting on the toilet. I know, not really a Halloween story, but I was sitting on the toilet, and while I was sitting on the toilet, I heard knocking. And I thought, no, that can't possibly be true. And then I heard, and I thought, no, it can't be true. And then all of a sudden, the toilet roll fell off of the stand, hit the ground, and started rolling. Now it was an old Victorian house, so it was actually tilted a little bit. The floors were a little bit slanted because it was so old. And this toilet paper roll started rolling uphill. And I got so scared. I was like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here. And I crawled. I said, this can't be happening. So I got back out and I went into Tiffer's room and I crawled into my sleeping bag and I pretended I didn't hear the knocking and I didn't hear that faint. I didn't hear, and I hadn't seen that toilet paper roll rolling uphill. And I managed to pretend that I was asleep. And then just as I was drifting off, all of a sudden I heard it again. And a door opened, and then I heard I was so scared. And when I looked up, Tiffer looked down at me and he said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Didn't you hear that? Didn't you hear that?" And he said, "Yeah, I just went to the bathroom and I flushed the toilet." I was so scared.